having a little bit of camera difficulties, technical difficulties, and I'm hoping that this camera will pick up my lighting and won't turn off while I'm doing this. So anyways, where I started off was I was infusing the milk, and I put it in the ice bath water. So the milk is in ice, the ice is already melted, but it's ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put this over here. And what I did was I added, oops, that kind of dropped and splashed all over. What I did was I added a couple cups, about 3 cups of a variety of flours. What I added was a wheat pastry, half of the wheat pastry flour, and then I added AP flour, whoops, which is all-purpose flour. And little did I know that I still had some Crust flour, which I added some salt and sugar to it previously. So I added like 3 cups, and it's okay because I'm going to probably do a couple of shells, a couple of pies here. So, okay, and then I added like a half a teaspoon of salt, maybe close to a teaspoon. I like the sweet and savory. And then I have like an ultra fine sugar, and I added like 1/4 cup of that because I want my crust to taste like a cookie. So it's nice to have like a cookie flavored crust. Cookie. Okay, and so let's see. Make sure that I don't have everything out right now because it's a little bit, yeah, I need a bigger kitchen. Anyways, okay, so after infusing the, heating up my milk in, with the spices, the anise and the cardamom and the cloves and the peppercorns, oh, it smells so good. Make sure you break the little seeds of the cardamom and you ice it, and make sure it's iced water. In the meantime, I have get my thoughts together here. I have some, so I put some butter in the freezer because I want it really super cold. Okay, so I'm going to take my butter. All right. This is the fun part. So after I incorporated the, after I mixed in the, my dry ingredients, which is the salt, the sugar with the flour, I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Alrighty. And then I'm going to cut it up a little bit with my little, I have a little pastry cutter, jigger. So let's cut it up a little bit. Yeah, cut it up. Just kind of cut it up, and I'm going to toss it in there. So I'm cutting it into some big little chunks here. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to preheat my oven. So, oops, making a mess here. Make sure your surface has been cleaned. It's clean. So I'm going to preheat my oven at 425 degrees. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to be blind baking my, so I'm going to put 2 sticks of that. So they're like 4 ounces each. So we'll go ahead and cut this up as well. Of course, we could use a cutter. We could use something to cut that on, which is what I probably should have done. And these are pretty sharp, so be very careful. Yeah, I think they're pretty cool though. These little scrapers. Scrape your dough off, and I mean, I'd use a knife to cut, but okay. So that's about a good, it's a ½ pound of butter that I'm using. And I want to make them into like little chunks, like medium little chunks. I think one of my funnest classes was my baking class. I had some cool instructors. And everybody has a different way of baking method. There's different methods. There's just not one method. There's not one way of baking. I mean, people make crust. They put eggs in it. Sometimes you make it gluten. You know, they bring the glutens together. But this is a little bit different. This is like a shortbread kind of cookie, but it's a flaky crust. So. Not a shortbread, but you could make it. You could put pecans in there. You can almond meal. Put some almond meal to bring some flavor, incorporate some flavor. I've made some pecans and incorporated some flavor in there. I mean, you can flavor up just remember, you're just going to, you got to pair it up with whatever your filling is going to be. So go ahead and your hands are warm, so be very careful. If you want to put your hands in the freezer, put your hands in the freezer. I'm not doing that. I'm not putting my hands in the freezer. And then sometimes they have the pastry cutters where I don't have one. I don't think I do. So I've got to use my hands. You can use a processor, but what I want to do is I want to make it as flaky as possible. Oh yeah, incorporate. I just want to get all that butter in there. So, and then the rule of thumb is to make it like, you know, pea size. You know, the pea size. Pea size meaning the size of a pea. I used to do baking in high school many years ago. That's when I first started to learn how to cook. Was in high school. Well, actually in my mom's kitchen, but then, you know, and I would watch people cook, and then I took a baking class in high school. I mean, cooking. I took 2 semesters, and along with other classes like art and clothing. I loved all that stuff, so kind of domesticated stuff. I wanted to take auto, but there's too many guys in there. I was a little intimidated. Okay, so I got all the flour in this, incorporated in with the, so the flour looks kind of grainy, so it doesn't look like flour anymore, which is so much fun. Just kind of do that, and then it should kind of stick together like that. See, that means you have a good flour there. And then I'm going to go ahead and add, just a little bit at a time, my cold milk. And I used to put canned milk in there. So, you know, you could put the canned milk in there if you'd like. So my oven is preheated right now. Okay, it's coming together fine. You don't want to overmix it. Put it aside just in case I need a little bit more. And then go ahead and bring that on my working bench here. Well, it's a table, which I like. Best thing I ever bought. Okay. So I have 2. So I'm going to go ahead and get some more flour. A little bit more flour on my bench here. Or my floured work area. Just a little. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and flour up my, just kind of roll it out. And you would put this in a plastic bag, and it's not, because I want to bake it tonight, and I want to bake it right away. Normally you put this in a plastic bag and you put it in the refrigerator, freezer, and then you just kind of, it's getting stuck. So what I'm going to do is kind of play with this a little bit. Yeah, normally you just put this, and then you make it cold. You want to make it cold again. So flatten it out like a disc. A flat, and then you wrap it with a plastic bag and you put it in the refrigerator for at least a half hour. I ain't doing that right now, so I'm just not going to do that right now. Okay, now I'm going to get my pie pan. Where's my pie pan? So I'm going to go ahead and put this in my pie pan. Of course, if you're making these and you're for vending purposes, you would use a different kind of pie pan. You'd probably use a disposable one or a one-time use one. So, or a tin one. You can get them at the dollar store. Real easy. So I rolled up my pie crust on to my roller like that, and I just kind of lay it out. Yeah. And then just kind of, and this is still going to come out nice and flaky. Okay. I'm going to press that in like that. It's going to be nice. And I'm going to get a little knife here. Whoop, daisy. And I'm just going to, you want to use a little cookie cutter and decorate some and put them on the end, you can. So I'm just really just pressing. Pressing it. I'm going to hurry up and do this so I can show you how to blind bake. And then kind of might have to be a couple of parts here. I apologize. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to get a fork. A fork. Okay, and then I'm going to poke it. Poke it around like this. You could use a fork. You could use whatever you want to use. You could use it. And then if you want to do like crimping, you can. You know, you can put your fingers together like that and crimp the pie crust. You can make it, you could stand up the pie crust. I mean, people get really decorative on their pie crust. I'm going to do this little old-fashioned technique. I call it an old-fashioned because this is what I learned in high school over 40 years ago. So, this is how I did it. And I think we need to hold on to some of the arts of, you could create new ones, but Some of my arts are worthy to be held on to. And then I press down like that. If you want to use a fork, you could use a fork. You know, make some imprints like that with the fork. You know, it's up to you. I like that nice old-fashioned technique. It's really nice. But, you know, they have, like I said, they got some really beautiful pie crusts, you know. You can be as decorative as you want to. It's a little rustic. Yeah, it's okay, because it's going to be a little rustic. Okay? And then you take, you take some parchment. You take some parchment. I got a parchment sheet. And then you just grab some, I have beans, I use beans. You can buy weights, but beans are cheaper. You use that and they'll last forever. So I just pour the beans in there. You use half and half. And then I'm going to get my scissors and just trim around